One of the things that I really enjoy about working in Blender is that all these wonderful tools are integrated into one system, and we're free to go back and forth between a number of different workflows at any point inside the application. The sculpting tools are a really great example of that. We don't have to use the sculpting tools for just modeling characters or creatures. We can use the sculpting tools in any workflow, whether it be animation, even the grease pencil tools, and even here in the hard surface world. We're going to use our sculpting tools to sculpt a rock, which is generally just kind of a really angular shape, very quickly and in an organic fashion. Whenever we're working with our sculpting tools, we want to be mindful of the sequence that we need to go through. We want to use our sculpting tools and the brushes to very quickly block out an overall form. Then we're going to add some detail in with the multi-resolution modifier, which is going to give us like a million polygons on our mesh. And the third stage is the optimization of that entire system through some what's called retopologizing to get us good, clean quad polygons that match the flow of all of the surfaces that we've created in the sculpting stage. Let's jump in. For a rock, I think I'm going to work with something different than a default cube. I'm going to work with something called an icosphere. So let's delete it. And then inside of the Add Object pull-down menu, we're going to, of course, choose icosphere, which is one of my favorite shapes. This is what it looks like. It's just a real angular sphere. Now, I'm looking at the object parameters, and at a subdivision level of 2, this is what we get. But I'm going to bring it down to 1 because it's going to give us just this really great angular shape. And then immediately jump into our sculpting tab found at the top of the screen. There we go. Before we jump in and start working, here's a great little trick, something that's going to help you match your work environment to mine. I'm going to go over into my toolbar and put my cursor right at the boundary of the toolbar and the background of the scene, which is going to give me kind of a cool left-right arrow. I'm going to drag to the right, which is going to make our toolbar from 1 column into 2. A little bit easier to see all of our tools this way. Since we're over here, be real mindful that they've done a great job of color coding all of the brushes. If you look carefully, we have a whole collection of blue brushes. The blue ones are additive, so they're going to push the forms outwards. The red ones are subtractive, so they're going to smooth out and push all the forms inwards. And then the yellow ones are going to be like movement brushes. They're going to take the existing structure and move it very intelligently and creatively across the surface of our mesh. I'm going to grab the move brush, it's called the grab brush, I apologize, and hit the F key on my keyboard to interactively make my brush size bigger or smaller. Good one to commit to memory. The grab tool is the yellow one, kind of looks like a little hat on top of a sphere, and I'm going to use this one to very quickly move the existing shapes. Look at it from the front. Yeah, into something that I'm happy with. And the great thing about sculpting and working with rocks is that no two rocks are going to look the same. So there really is only kind of this idea of form that we're looking at. I want to have some planar surfaces because oftentimes rocks through erosion kind of have flat sides on them. So I want to look at that, and the icosphere does a great job of allowing me to block that out pretty fast. It also does a great job of establishing some of these really faceted edges, which are kind of neat. So what I'm going to do is just kind of look at form. I'm looking at the overall shape here. Yeah, and I think I want it to be a little bit kind of more rectangular in form at the top. It maybe gets bigger at the bottom. No two rocks are going to look the same, and that's okay. The great thing about working with these sculpting brushes is they allow us to explore very quickly. By the end of this process, you should have something that looks kind of like a rock, and that's all that we need to be, just in that kind of ballpark. This is the detail. The focal point of our renders and of our models are not going to be the rock. So all we need to do, and the goal is just to make it believable. We need to suspend disbelief. The subconscious has to buy into the idea that this is a rock. The render camera is going to be many, many, many feet away from this object, so we're not going to see the fine details, but we are going to see the overall silhouette and form. Okay, so with that said, I think I'm going to advance into the next stage, which is the inclusion of the multi-resolution modifier into this workflow, because I want to be able to go in and have some nice little bevels in there. Even though the rock is going to be relatively low resolution, I'm still going to be able to go in and craft some really cool planes and some really nice transition points between these sculptural planes just to kind of catch the light and to make it kind of get into that rock look and feel. Let's do it real fast. Let's go over into our properties panel. Hit the little wrench icon to bring open our modifiers, and we're going to add a multi-resolution modifier. And there we go. Of course, without any subdivisions, it doesn't really do anything. So let's subdivide this object like 4 times. And one thing to be very mindful of is, since we're working with the parameters, the properties of our multi-resolution modifier, are these different categories here. We have the level viewport, the sculpt levels, and then the render levels. At the moment, we're inside of our sculpting workspace. We're in sculpt mode. So we're accessing the 4 levels of subdivision in this mode. But what's level viewport? How's that used? Simply, this is what we see in object mode. Let me show it to you real fast. Let's transition from sculpt mode over into object mode, and boom, immediately we're seeing with that low resolution icosphere that we saw, even though we have an object modifier applied. So think of this like as this. This is the render view. This is the sculpt mode, and then this is object mode. If you want to see the impact of this multi-resolution modifier in object mode, make sure you turn this up. There we go. And now I'm in object mode, and there is my rock. Although it doesn't really look like a rock anymore. It's been so smoothed out by the multi-resolution modifier that we have some work that we need to do back in sculpt mode. And this is where it gets a tremendous amount of fun. Of course, naturally, we can continue to work with the move tool and start to push and pull some of these forms around, kind of capture that rock shape a little bit, which is kind of neat. And I'm just grabbing with my mouse and I'm pushing outwards. Now, what this is creating is some really great organic shapes, but maybe this gives us an opportunity to explore a different tool. It's the flatten tool. This is inside of our tool brush bar, and it's the icon that looks like a sphere with kind of a flat top on it. It's the red one of the red ones. And this is going to create some flat planes, which is great for rocks. Be mindful of the size of your brush. The plane that's going to kind of even out and flatten is going to match the size of your brush. If you want it to be, it also is looking at the fall off of your brush. If you look real carefully, I'm going to see if I can do this real fast. Here we go. Get it into view. If you look real carefully here, we have 2 rings on our brush. We have the outside ring, which is the brush size, and we have the inside ring, which represents the interior fall-off conclusion. The influence of the brush is going to be modulated. It's going to change, kind of feathered, if you will, from the location of the inside ring to the location of the outside ring. If I wanted to have a real soft transition, which is good when working with the push and pull brush, or when even just with the grab brush. This soft transition is really nice. However, for like maybe the flatten to create rocks, we can change this. And we do this by hitting Shift F. And this is what we get. And now we're changing the fall off. I always have a little bit of a fall off. Remember, this is going to feather it based on the distance of the inside ring to the outside ring. So we're going to get very little fall off like here. And what this does, yeah, it just creates some really nice angular forms pretty quickly. Now, it kind of got lost a little bit here. Here we go. There's my shape. That's kind of what I was after. When working with the flatten brush, you really got to pay attention to the size of that circle, because it's going to flatten your forms based on the size of that shape. And I'm just going to flatten some of these edges out a little bit here, kind of retain some of that shape. Yeah, and generally speaking, let's get the bottom working. Flatten out the bottom. I'm going to flatten out maybe one of the sides here. Something like that. Now, I'm real pleased with the direction that this is going, but I also want to start making some more defined angular transitions. This is a rock, and it should be eroded over time. Let me show you another great tool that will allow us to kind of tighten up some of these transitions in our planes. It's called the pinch tool. And the pinch brush it's a yellow one. It's got the 2 arrows on it. And look what happens when I transition over an area of my mesh where there's a corner. It's going to pinch and pull all of the vertices towards the center of the brush. It's kind of like a magnet. So I'm just hovering my mouse over the edge here. And you can see as I drag, let me get into another area here, it's starting to create some wonderful sharp edges. So the flatten brush creates some planes, and then we can go back in with the pinch brush and really create some wonderful, wonderful shapes. Yeah, I'm digging this. This is going in the right direction. Now, you could spend hours and hours and hours working on this, and I would encourage you to spend some time Be creative. The cool thing about rocks is that they really can look like anything. But remember the forms. Have a style that you're going for. And then go and continue to match that style as much as you can. It's like a tree. Trees have a look and feel, but no trees look the same. No two trees look the same, excuse me. And I'm pretty pleased with the conclusion of my little rock. Let's go into object mode here real fast because I want to turn on smooth shading. To get a good look, let's select our object, then right-click on the object and choose Shade Smooth. Yeah, and this gives us a really good kind of high-level view of what our rock is looking like. And generally speaking, I'm pretty pleased with it. I could spend some more time on this, but I think for the purposes of this example, this is looking pretty good. However, we have a little bit of a challenge here, and this challenge is it has everything to do with the topology. The sculpting workflow gives us a lot of geometry. The multi-resolution modifier is fantastic, but now we need to optimize this mesh and get it into a form that allows us to work a little bit more efficiently inside the larger 3D production process. Right now, we have a couple 100,000 polygons on this mesh. That's not something that I want to commit to a rock, something that's going to be relatively small within inside the scene. So we need to explore in the next video how we're going to retopologize this quickly while maintaining all of these wonderful details that we've sculpted inside of Blender.